Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Controlled opposition. That is exactly what Lindsey Graham seems to be. Lindsey Graham, Joe Biden's best friend, probably who Joe Biden's referring to when he claims that he doesn't mean all Republicans with his inflammatory, divisive rhetoric, only the MAGA kind, not the good Republicans, Joe Biden says, probably thinking about Lindsey Graham at the back of his mind. But of course, Lindsey Graham is hardly a Republican now, is he? When I think about Lindsey Graham, especially now, I think about controlled opposition. Lindsey Graham is actively trying to sabotage Republicans ahead of the 2022 midterms. I mean, seriously, what is this guy thinking? You know what I think most Republican voters want from Lindsey Graham ahead of the election? Nothing. Literally nothing. What Republican voters want from Lindsey Graham right now is very simply to just go away. But instead, what is Lindsey Graham doing? He's doing media tours saying completely ridiculous things, and now he's introducing new legislation at possibly the dumbest time imaginable, an extremely partisan piece of legislation that he knows is not going to pass. Literally, the only thing that this new Lindsey Graham bill does is motivate Democrats to get to the polls. It gives them a rallying cry to tackle their voter enthusiasm issue. There is no other way to interpret this other than Lindsey Graham sabotaging the Republicans ahead of 2022. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on and why I say that. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so you guys might be asking, what exactly did Lindsey Graham do? Lindsey Graham proposes 15-week abortion bill, dividing Republicans ahead of midterm elections. And now the conversation here is not around the actual content of the legislation. Lindsey Graham defends his actions by claiming that the bill represents the mainstream, which of course, I'm not disputing. We know the polling data and we know that most people do not support this medical procedure after 15 weeks. We know that number to be 72%, only 28% of individuals polled approve of this medical procedure happening after 13 weeks. Do I have an issue with Lindsey Graham's bill? Not exactly, I have some issues that I'll mention later, but that isn't even the topic of conversation here, because the timing is completely stupid. You know what Republicans don't need right now? They don't need to be handing over messaging gifts to the Democrats 2 months ahead of the election. Of course, Democrats aren't going to delve into the details of this bill and what it actually is. They're going to say Lindsey Graham and those ultra-MAGA Republicans are trying to ban abortion, head to the polls. You have to vote to defend your rights against these ultra-MAGA Republicans. You cannot let them take hold of Congress. That is literally the only endgame here. That's the only ending to this bill, because clearly it's dead on arrival. What the hell is the point of presenting this bill? It does nothing. Republicans would need close to a supermajority in order to get this thing passed. It's about as likely to pass as codifying Roe v. Wade. It's not gonna happen. You need 60 clean votes to pass this thing, and clearly that is never going to happen. Lindsey Graham is trying to give the Democrats a lifeline for their messaging campaigns ahead of the next election. Why would he do that? The only reason he would do that is if he was actively working to sabotage Republican chances ahead of the next election. This is what I think Lindsey Graham is doing. He's pretended to be pro-Trump over the last 6 years, but at every single opportunity that he's had a chance to throw Republicans or throw MAGA Republicans under a bus, he's done so. Anytime he's had an opportunity to betray Donald Trump, he's done so. And so clearly in an election environment where MAGA Republicans are basically taking over the party and Lindsey Graham and his ilk are on the way out, he's angry, bitter, and jealous and trying to burn the whole thing down before his time in the Senate is done. There is absolutely nothing genuine about this bill. Some people are saying that Lindsey Graham is doing this because he wants to appear more conservative and lose the rhino tag, a completely stupid notion. Other people are claiming that Lindsey Graham is doing this in order to rally the pro-life base. Another completely idiotic take. We've covered the data and we know where the issue of abortion stands. After the overturning of Roe v. Wade, conservatives got their victory. Roe v. Wade has been deemed unconstitutional and it's sent back to the states where it belongs. That's enough of a victory for most Republicans. And just sticking on that alone, it's another point as to why Lindsey Graham is being completely disingenuous here. And really, it just exemplifies how much of a disaster this whole thing is. Because Lindsey Graham is looking like a massive hypocrite right now, considering he said this a couple months ago.
Saying that the 2015 Supreme Court decision that made same-sex marriage the law of the land nationally should be overturned?
No, I am saying that I don't think it's going to be overturned.
Nor should it be?
Well, you know, that'd be up to the court. The reasoning, I think, could be attacked, but the point I'm trying to make is I've been consistent. I think states should decide the issue of marriage, and states should decide the issue of abortion. I have respect for South Carolina. South Carolina voters here, I trust, to define marriage and to deal with the issue of abortion, not 9 people on the court. That's my view.
Lindsey Graham literally said there, "I've been consistent. I think that states should decide the issue of gay marriage and states should decide the issue of abortion." Then a couple months later, he proposes a bill showing that he's not being consistent at all, trying to enact a federal ban, forcing states to ban the procedure after 15 weeks. That is nothing but ammunition for the Democrats. One of the main points of the Republican argument against Roe v. Wade was the grievance over the fact that it was a federal law that was being forced onto states that didn't agree. The entire argument was that states get to decide their own laws, and that the federal government shouldn't be forcing California's values on Republican states. And now Lindsey Graham is saying, well, we're going to force Republican values on Californians. It's completely inconsistent and totally hypocritical. He's now presenting himself as totally inconsistent, a massive liar, a total hypocrite. And the worst part of all is that he's representing you ahead of an election. He's a mainstream Republican, and he's now inserting himself in the news cycle, giving the Democrats exactly the ammunition that they need. And there's just no way that I'm believing that Lindsey Graham is just doing what he thinks is right. Excuse me, but he's not that stupid. Lindsey Graham may be a whole lot of things. Stupid is not one of them. This is a calculated decision to sabotage Republicans ahead of the next election. This is a calculated decision to give Joe Biden the ammunition that he needs to continue with his messaging campaign about the threat of ultra-MAGA fascist Republicans. This is Lindsey Graham trying to hurt Republicans ahead of the election in an effort to stop pro-Trump, America First, Patriot Americans from getting elected. That is truly exactly what I believe. I mean, the Biden White House is already pointing out his hypocrisy during press conferences.
I'm going to quote Lindsey Graham from August 7th, 2022, and he said, "I've been consistent. I think states should decide the issue of marriage and states should decide the issue of abortion." And so there, that's from his own mouth, and now he wants to do a national ban.
This guy is totally unbelievable, and it shows exactly why it's so hard for Republicans to win elections. Because not only do Republicans have to beat the Democrats, but they have to win against all odds with the media against them, and of course with their own party sabotaging the party's image and the party's chances. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney. I mean, the list goes on and on. Nothing else needs to be said other than their names. I'm sure most Republican voters are thinking it's time for these people to go. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, Lindsey Graham also said this recently, I think last week, "Never trust these dirtbags." Lindsey Graham, GOP senators slam Trump, say, quote, "Pardons for January 6 protesters is a bad idea. Say nothing about protesters in prison for over a year without a trial." Literally nobody asked for your opinion, Lindsey Graham. And at this point, I think it's time to just take a hike. Go for a 2.5-month walk in Hillary Clinton's forest and don't come back until after the election, please, I think is what most Republican voters are thinking. By the way, Lindsey Graham, the man who said that if we nominate Donald Trump as our presidential candidate, we're never going to win. Republican patriots don't need your help on how to win an election. They just need you to shut up and go away. But that's what I got for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for it. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.